It's beautiful to see that at the last match day of the Champions League, so many qualifications are on the line. This year, this match day was mainly dead, what do you call them?
Dead rubbers.
Dead rubbers, right?
Yeah.
As happy as I am to see that this is an opportunity for Manchester United, third string goalkeeper, to debut on a European competition, the fact that the last day of the biggest football competition in the world allows for an 18-year-old to just walk on the pitch and get a Champions League cap. As much as I respect that and I'm happy for the guy, I don't think the Champions League should be that competition. I think that there should be other moments for that. But since
I think you're absolutely right. I think if it's going to be the premier competition, it needs to be the premier competitive competition, right?
Yeah, and then teams like Bayern Munich and Manchester City, they would probably qualify still with 2 days in advance, two games in advance, and then they would have the opportunity to do this. But seeing like the Champions League becoming a sort of stomping ground for youngsters to get their first cap for their team, I think that's a little sad. Like, they should be, first you play in the league, then you play in the cup, and then when you really earn it, you play in the Champions League.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
But yeah, thank you, Miguel Delaney, for this beautiful article. Very interesting read. I've actually used it with a few students who enjoy football while teaching.
Nice.
It's a very well-written article, and it offers for some good thinking. But now, it's time to talk about the teams that have actually qualified in the nick of time. And we're going to start from Atlético Madrid.
Yeah, we do still love the Champions League, right? We are still all in on the Champions League. But yeah, let's start with Atlético, who are, after a few times we've talked about how maybe they're not the same Simeone team, or is it fading? Well, they're looking very good in La Liga, and they've just qualified yet again for the last 16. Now, I saw highlights of the game again through BT Sports European show. Every time I've seen Salzburg, we know what Salzburg are like. They're youth prospects. They're always close, but never quite there. But Atletico were very professional and got the job done. Their squad is looking very, very strong at the moment. Just their front line alone, João Felix and Suarez with Costa as reserve, is crazy. So I think in this year where nobody can predict anything, who knows about Atletico?
Also, Atletico are top of La Liga with 2 games in hand. They could easily go up even more with a bigger gap than they do now. Could this be the year of their 11th title? Well, guess what? The Anglo-Italian Connection football podcast is starting to think that it could be. Also because, as you said, João Felix, Suarez, Diego Costa, they need to get used to playing together. But if eventually you can play 2 of these players together and have them be effective, that could be one of the deadliest striking partnership all over Europe.
Yeah, and if there's one thing we know about Atletico is that they know how to spot a good striker, right?
Big time.
Their run of like world-class strikers has been ridiculous, all the way back from Forlan, Aguero, Torres, Falcao, Costa, Griezmann. Like, they know how to spot a striker, right? And João Felix is very young. Every time I've seen him, he looks so technical, so impressive. I think they're playing him now so that in a few years they have that world-class striker again. And who better for him to learn from than Luis Suarez, as long as he doesn't pick up the bad habits.
Big time. And I think that Suarez is also looking for a little revenge against Barcelona for how they treated him this summer. And I think that he would thoroughly enjoy a title with Atletico. Also concerning the Uruguayan connection that I keep bringing up at Atletico, because it's ridiculous. I mean, you had Godin, right now you've got Suarez and Torreira, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some other talents, some other Uruguayan talents that have played there. But I have a bit of a soft spot for Atletico Madrid. I didn't really doubt the fact that they wouldn't make it to the round of 16, but hadn't they made it, that would have been a bit of a blow. Like, not seeing Atletico on the big international stage, I feel like they're a team that highly deserves it.
Yeah, I think they're a team that we're so used to seeing in the latter stages of the competition now, kind of regularly quarterfinalists, semi-finalists. They were the team that I followed when I lived in Madrid, and it was the year when they won it in 2014. Which was amazing fans, very patient fans. Having to put up with Real Madrid fans constantly cannot be easy. So I always kind of tipped my hat to Atletico fans, and I always hope they do well. I kind of like that they're the home of shithouses and shithousery. I kind of like them for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, as an Atletico fan, not as an Inter fan, I've often thought about being an Atlético fan, losing 2 Champions League finals to your cross-city rivals, that's something that would probably make me stop watching football altogether.
And how they lost it as well. Sergio Ramos equalizing in the last second, like, oh.
And the very sad thing about that game is that Atletico Madrid had won the league one of those 2 occasions. But that league win was totally overshadowed by the fact that their cross-city rivals had won the Champions League. So I think that either the Champions League or the Liga without Real Madrid lifting anything, that's something that Atletico Madrid fans deserve. So go Colchoneros, we're backing you. It's a bit of a hipstery team, isn't it, Atletico Madrid?
I think so, yeah. I think people like people who like to study systems and tactics like to watch Atletico and like to kind of see what Simeone is thinking. I enjoy them as long as you're not playing against them. Arsenal have faced them a few times and it is a nightmare to play against. And it's like death by 1,000 cuts. But watching it is, I always enjoy watching them.
And let's not forget, that happened at the strangest time of 2020. If you can identify one, that was probably the strangest time of 2020, when games were starting to be postponed. We didn't know if games could be played, the leagues would be resumed or not. Atletico Madrid beat Liverpool very convincingly and in a highly Simeone fashion at Anfield. Let's not forget that the way the Champions League continued was the only way it could be put in place. But I do think that if things had continued normally, that Atletico Madrid team last year could have made a statement in Europe, because that win, defeating the Champions League, the Champions League champions in the round of 16 and kicking them out right away, not many people were thinking about it.
And this is something else on Simeone as well. He did that by putting a former centre-back up front in Llorente. Like, he was a half convincing centre-back, so they moved into midfield, a little bit better. Okay, let's chuck him up front. And now he's become a very accomplished striker and always comes up with key goals.
A bit like Gareth Bale, right? Starting as a rugby player, then as a centre-back, then as a left-back, then this guy's very quick, then you can play wing. Just do everything for us.
Just go where you want. Do wherever
you want, man. But yeah, go Atlético. We're very happy that you've qualified. Other teams we need to talk about, they are in Italy, Atalanta and Lazio. Which team do you want to start from, Rory?
Let's start with Lazio. I watched their game. I was very impressed with Club Brugge, but close but no cigar. Lazio managed to get the job done. Club Brugge had someone sent off for 2 stupid tackles in the first half, kind of putting them in real trouble. They were 2-1 down at that point. They managed to pull themselves back into the game, 2-2. Lazio were trying to push for that winner. Brugge break, and it looks clear shot on goal, and he bounces it off the crossbar. It bounces outside of the goal, and Lazio managed to survive, get the point, and see themselves through for the first time in 20 years to the knockout stages of the Champions League.
Simone Inzaghi, who's currently Lazio's manager, as you all know, he was in the last Lazio team to qualify for the round of 16.
Crazy.
And yesterday he said, this feels like winning a trophy. Look, besides, I know when we talk about Lazio, there's always a lot of politics involved, because Lazio fans are known to be the extreme right-wing team supporters in Italy. Of course, I don't like that, but I do like Lazio as a team. I like their colors. If I have to pick a team in Roma, unfortunately, it would be Lazio. You don't have this in Italy, in England, but in Italy, teams like supporters and teams are kind of twinned.
Yeah, talk about this. We don't have this in England, and I find it fascinating.
So we call them gemellaggi. They usually start from the supporters, but also the clubs sometimes. There are clubs that kind of like each other, and making a transfer from that team to the other one is usually easier. I think that the Lazio supporters are very close to the Inter supporters, which doesn't really pay a great homage to our supporters, because that means that there is a strong right-wing connection that I'm definitely not fond about. But yeah, we have this thing. They are our twins in Italy, and I do enjoy seeing them perform, also because historically we've seen players like Simeone, Veron, Mancini. I mean, we've seen so many talented players play for them. It's good. I think they belong. They belong to Europe more than they have shown in the past years.
Yeah, they're not really a team I remember seeing in the Champions League, obviously, because it's been 20 years since they've been there. But yeah, like listing all those players, you forget how many great players they've had. Obviously, we've talked many times, if I have to pick a team in Italy, it's Roma. So I definitely have kind of the different feelings towards Lazio, but it's good to see them do well. I like Simone Inzaghi. They've got some great players, very nice to watch. I like Caicedo, Immobile, obviously. Milenkovic-Savic, they've got some really, really good players and definitely worth watching. I think any team who gets drawn against them would be worried.
Yeah, when I mentioned the great players that they had, I felt like there was a name missing. Alessandro Nesta? Yeah, Alessandro Nesta.
Yeah. Sorry, Alessandro, we forgot you.
Yeah, we forgot you, Alessandro. He always listens to our podcast. He's probably super disappointed that we didn't mention him. Sorry, Ale, scusaci.
Yeah, we'll make it up to him.
Non succederà di nuovo. It won't happen again. But no, yeah, it's actually very nice to see this. They've shut the bed so many times in the Europa League with very easy groups. And I feel like this year they were like, all right, we've missed on the Champions League for so long. Let's not shit the bed. But I think that says something also about the lack of motivation when people play the Europa League compared to the Coppa UEFA. Mourinho said this recently, that he sees that his players are not as motivated when they travel to a remote village in Poland. Well, yeah.
It's hard to get, I imagine it's hard to get worked up for playing in an empty stadium in Bulgaria in the middle of winter. I imagine that's quite hard compared to like going to the Bernabeu or Camp Nou or San Siro or whatever. Of course, it's a different matter. I think with the Europa League, it only really kicks in when you get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, is when people genuinely start to care.
And the last thing I need to say about Lazio, and this is a testament to Simone Inzaghi. Simone Inzaghi was not supposed to be there because Lazio had signed Bielsa, who is now currently... Didn't you know this?
Oh, wait, no, he was there for like a really short time though, right?
I think a week.
Oh, really?
It was ridiculous. So they signed Bielsa. Then there was, right now, I'm sorry, listeners, I don't remember the exact story, but there were some problems with his wage, I believe, or he said that Lazio hadn't been clear about certain things. I only remember that he was in Rome for a very short period. And right after he had announced he had signed for them, they said, well, he's not our manager anymore. So at that point, the season was about to start. It was, I think, around August. So they said, they told Simone Inzaghi, who was a club legend and he was working in the club, they said, do you want to try and coach the team? And it felt like he was going to just take them for half a season. You know how it happens in Italy.
Like a caretaker, yeah.
Caretaker, and then somebody will replace you. Well, he had a very first good season. He had a very good second season, and he kept improving. They won trophies under him, and Juventus were interested in signing him, but I don't think he's going to go anywhere because you see the emotion of a former player when Lazio perform. That last-minute draw against Juventus with the goal by Caicedo, Simone Inzaghi was the first one to run on the pitch like a player, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's beautiful for fans to see. And right now that he's qualified for the round of 16, it feels like a trophy. It's not a trophy, but it's definitely another great accomplishment.
Good. So, shall we move on to Atalanta? It's been a kind of rocky week for them, right? From reported arguments in the changing room to their manager maybe going to qualifying for the last 16. It's never boring in Bergamo, apparently.
Never boring in Bergamo. There were growing rumors of a very intense verbal fight in the locker room between Gasperini and Papu Gomez. That was during last week's fixture against Midtjylland. Apparently, Gasperini said that regardless from the result, he would have quit the Atalanta job. No official sources reported that, but he felt like it was a rumor going around, and it left people like, what the fuck? Because he's done so well with Atalanta. Let's not forget that this is their second season ever in the Champions League, and for the second year in a row, they have qualified to the round of 16. They had Liverpool and Ajax in this year's group.
That was a difficult group they got out of. Even Midtjylland turned into the kind of whipping boys of the group, but they're kind of famous for, having good youth prospects, being a dangerous team. So that was a difficult group to get through. And for Atalanta to do that, fair play. And always, I saw Carl Anker, a great football journalist, tweeted on Twitter, obviously, last night saying, the tweet was simply, always watch Atalanta. Just every time they're on TV, just watch them because you'll never regret it. and I'm really happy to see them still in the competition. So many players I enjoy. Ilicic, I would love to have at Arsenal. I enjoy watching that guy so much, as well as, of course, Papu Gomez and De Roon.